What's up, gamers? I hope you're having a wonderful day today. I am, because today I'm going to be giving my thoughts on the reveal of Black Ops 6 Zombies. So I'm basically just going to be covering a variety of different things, from different reveals, the Terminus gameplay, the Liberty Falls gameplay, the blog posts, the tweets, etc. Also, I do want to quickly apologize. My voice kind of sounds like shit because I'm a little bit sick at the moment, so I hope you can bear with me, but anyways, let's go ahead and get into this. So I'm going to start with the maps. First we have Terminus, which looks pretty cool. We have our characters stranded on a prison island during a zombie outbreak, and we need to escape with the characters from Cold War. The atmosphere of the map is pretty cool, with it being dark and set on the prison island. The boat seems like a pretty interesting mechanic, and it seems we'll be able to pilot it directly rather than it being on a set path like the other transportation methods. I remember thinking how cool it would be for transit to do this with the bus, so I hope it ends up being cool here. The Wonder Weapon also looks really interesting. You have a beam laser that causes zombies to violently explode, which looks sick as hell and reminds me of the Q-beam from Prey 2017. There's also a sonic wave emitter, which slows down zombies and makes them more prone to damage, which is a pretty cool mechanic. Finally, it seems that reloading the weapon emits a shock wave that knocks back the nearby zombies. It's interesting to see the reload of a Wonder Weapon have some utility, so I am looking forward to playing with it. Another cool feature is that there is a kraken on a certain part of the map, or at least a tentacle from it, and I don't know if this is going to be a boss you can fight or just a present hazard, but I do hope you have the ability to fight him. Overall, Terminus looks like a pretty good map. The other map is Liberty Falls, and I have definitely seen a lot of backlash from the community on this one. I'm going to be completely honest though, I don't think it looks that bad. I did have plenty of issues from what I saw in the Liberty Falls gameplay reveal, and I will cover those later, but for the most part, they're not really with the map itself. One thing I will agree with, though, is that the atmosphere for the map is quite bland and very reminiscent of the maps in Cold War. I did like the comic book store trap, but outside of that, the map seems pretty generic. I can look past that, though, as long as it plays well. Something that needs to be kept in mind is that they're not going to show off all the Easter eggs and side quests before launch, since they want the player to be able to discover it for themselves. Of course, I also want them to be good. If all the side quests are like the coffin dance or free perk Easter eggs in Cold War, then that's going to be disappointing since I can already get those sort of things through normal gameplay. I don't think there's anything wrong with including those kinds of Easter eggs, but there should also be some that give you some unique rewards, kind of like the Hell's Retriever on Mob of the Dead, the Thunder Fists on Origins, the Dragon Strike on Gorod Krovi, the Steak Knife and Silver Bullets on Dead of the Night, stuff like that. If it's packed full of fun side content, then that will already be a huge improvement from the maps in Cold War, so for those reasons, I'm willing to give Liberty Falls the benefit of the doubt for now. While I'm sorta on the topic of Easter eggs, let me talk about those for just a bit more. I've already discussed the side Easter eggs, but the main Easter eggs have some interesting developments. First of all, there's going to be unique map-specific rewards for doing the main Easter eggs on these maps, which are really exciting because I found that there usually aren't good rewards for doing the main Easter egg outside of the achievement or trophy that you get for it. Some have suggested that it will be a unique weapon camo that you can put on your Wonder Weapon. I hope it's a little bit more than that, kind of like the Path of Sorrows on Revelations, but this is still cool nonetheless. A new addition, however, is the guided mode, where the game will disable a lot of map features and walk you through the main quest. You won't get the reward this way, but it's an interesting way to teach more casual players how to do these, and then if they want, they can take that knowledge to the normal mode and try to do it that way. This mode will not be available at launch and will only be patched in once the community solves the Easter egg, which I think is the right way to go about it so that you please those who want to do the hunt, but you also have those that have the guide if they want it. What I'm hoping is that this gives Treyarch the excuse to make the Easter eggs more challenging to do, because that's where I find fun in the main quests. Cold War's Easter eggs tried to appeal to casuals by making them super fucking easy, but we didn't really see a significant increase in the number of people doing it compared to other games. I want more challenging steps that test out your skill, and less of the pseudo-puzzle bullshit for most of Cold War's Easter eggs. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see if this ends up happening, but from what I've heard, it seems like they're listening to feedback on this one. Another positive change is the removal of out-of-game progression from Cold War. The Ethereum upgrade system just led to an insane amount of power creep as you unlock more permanent upgrades. Instead, now we have something called Augments, which is something you'll have to make a decision on since there are multiple augments for each item split between major and minor augments, but you can only equip one major and one minor at a time per item. I also hope that these are able to be changed while in-game, but that remains to be seen. I also hope that these are additional upgrades that you unlock in-game instead of something you equip in the menu and then you automatically have once you get that item, but once again, that remains to be seen. Even if it isn't, I'd still consider it an upgrade over the Ethereum system. Next, we have the Gobblegums returning, which I'm conflicted on. Let's talk positives first. The system has been changed from Black Ops 3. Instead of getting a Gobblegum from the machine and it immediately activating once you get it, it instead works like a hybrid between Black Ops 3's system and the BO4 Elixir system. You still get Gobblegums from the machine like you did in BO3, but instead of using it immediately, it gets stored into your inventory and you're allowed to carry up to 3, which you can then use at any time, and in fact, you can even have multiple active at once. This combines the need to acquire them on the map and the pseudo-randomness from Black Ops 3 with the ability to more strategically use them from Black Ops 4. Additionally, Mega Gobblegums won't be consumed until you use them, even if you picked it up from the machine. This is where my concerns start to take shape. Treyarch has confirmed that Gobblegums will be earned in-game, and this is actually an improvement over BO3 since you just earn the gums directly while playing, unlike BO3 where you had to pointlessly waste time in Dr. Monty's factory. However, we do not have confirmation that this will be the only way to earn them. We do not know if Gobblegums will be purchasable via microtransactions. There is a pre-order bonus for the Vault edition of the game where you get a Gobblegum pack, and while I don't think that's particularly egregious, it does mean that there is a framework in place to give players Gobblegums based off of these purchases, and I'm pretty sure that you will be able to spend real money on these things, and if so, that will suck because obviously pay-to-win mechanics are bad. I don't think that will be the end of the world for this game, but it would be disappointing. At the very least, I'm 99% sure that if you do have the option to buy them, that it won't be through loot boxes. They'll probably just directly sell Gobblegum packs in the store. Of course, that's hardly my biggest concern with the Gobblegums, just one that I thought was worth mentioning. My bigger concern is that they might ruin co-op play like they did in BO3. I talked about this in my hot takes video, but brief summary is that even if I choose not to use overpowered Gobblegums, my co-op experience would still be ruined by teammates spamming them. And of course, dashboarding incentivizing people to rage quit. Black Ops 6 could very well face the same issue. Like I described in that hot takes video though, this would easily be resolved by having a set of playlists where you're restricted to classic gums only, and then another playlist where you can use whatever Gobblegums you want. We don't have anything suggesting that we will though, so I'm gonna assume that that's not the case. I don't know if dashboarding will be a thing here. If it is, then it will likely encourage rage quitting like it did in Black Ops 3. Otherwise it won't. Not really much else to say here until we know for sure. The other one is about how overpowered the Mega Gobblegums are, and in BO6, they actually seem to be heavily toned down. Now, I don't know if the list on their blog post is comprehensive of every Mega Gobblegum that will be in the game at launch, but most of these seem pretty reasonable. They look useful, but not brokenly so. The only ones that toe the line are the two Ultra Gobblegums, those being Perkaholic and Wonderbar. Perkaholic does the same thing as it did in BO3, but I don't think it's going to be as broken in this game since there's no perk limit, so you can still get all your perks without it. The other one, Wonderbar, is new, and that just makes it so that the next time you spin the mystery box, it gives you that map's Wonder Weapon. This will allow you to get the Wonder Weapon pretty early, but both of these are only really useful for setting up. It's not like, say, Power Vacuum or Near-Death Experience, which turns the next few rounds it's active into a complete joke. If this is the power level we can expect from the Gobblegums in BO6, then I think we'll be fine, but there is also the concern of what they'll add post-launch. After all, most of the brokenly overpowered Gobblegums in BO3 were DLC Gobblegums like Shopping Free, Near-Death Experience, Power Vacuum, Round Robin, Raindrop, Self-Med, etc. If the power level of the Gobblegums we see in the DLC remain consistent with the launch lineup, then I think we'll be fine, but we could end up in the situation where a bunch of game-breaking shit gets added later. Next we have perks, not really all that much to say here. There's no perk limit similar to Cold War. We have 8 perks at launch, those being Jug, Speed Cola, Quick Revive, Deadshot, Stamina Up, Elemental Pop, PhD Flopper, which actually makes its first appearance since Black Ops 2 Origins in 2013, and a new perk called Melee Macchiato, which replaces your default melee attack with a punch that sends enemies flying. I do hope we get some new perks over the course of the DLC season, but this lineup seems fine. I am a little surprised that Mule Kick isn't returning though. While I do think that the perk system from Cold War could see a few tweaks to improve it, I'm okay with it returning in this game. The one exception to this though is the Wonder Fizz system from Cold War. That system made it so that there really wasn't any reason to learn where the perk machines were located on the map. In fact, if you asked me where Elemental Pop was located on Firebase Z or Forsaken, I genuinely could not tell you, since I would always just go to the Wonder Fizz machine and grab everything I needed from there. Now, Treyarch has said that the Wonder Fizz will be located in areas that are harder to reach and harder to survive in, but in the Liberty Falls gameplay, we literally just saw it on a random rooftop that didn't seem to be all that difficult to reach. I think if they made Wonder Fizz locked behind a side quest, that would work, or they could do something like Golden Pack-a-Punch on Togger Toten, but as it currently stands, it doesn't look like the issue was truly fixed, at least on Liberty Falls. Maybe Terminus could do it better though. We also have some changes to armor. First of all, higher tier armor is now a wall buy, which I prefer over the armory system. On top of that, armor is no longer automatically applied as soon as you pick it up, where you have to manually insert it much like you do in Warzone. A lot of people seem to be displeased with this, as to them, it looks more like zombies becoming Warzone, but I think purely in a gameplay sense, it might actually work better since you need to strategize when you insert your plates. You can't just run into a horde picking them up and have it protect you immediately, and on top of that, it could lead to some clutch moments where you save yourself by replating at the right time. I have to try it out for myself though before I can make a final judgment on this, but I'm not as pessimistic about it as most people. Of course, I could also be completely wrong and the system could be extremely fucking irritating, but I'm willing to give it a shot. I should state though that I would much prefer armor be removed entirely and have us go back to the shield system. I just think that works much better for zombies. But if we are going to have armor, then I think this system could provide just a little bit more depth to it. Next, we have a feature that I have wanted in zombies for a long ass time, and that is the ability to save a solo game and come back to it later. I'm honestly not sure why it took this long to add this to a mainline COD Zombies entry, since it seems like a no-brainer, but to my knowledge, the only other COD Zombies entry that's had this is the mobile version of Black Ops 1 Zombies. This is so nice for people like me who maybe want to try high rounding, but don't have a contiguous block of 12 consecutive hours to do it in. There are also these mutant injections. One of them turns you into a mangler. That's pretty cool. Not really much else to say about that. I also think it's cool that killing a mangler allows you to pick up its arm cannon and fire off 3 shots. It kind of reminds me of getting the Wonderwall from George Romero on Call of the Dead. Alright, up until this point, I've been mostly praising Black Ops 6 Zombies, but now we get to the part of the video where I become a huge negative Nancy. Let's start small. The HUD. Now, we do know that the HUD is customizable to an extent, so I'm not really concerned about it being cluttered. I can tell you right now that I'm turning off the minimap and the wall of text in the center of the screen first chance I get. However, in terms of style, it looks generic. Normally, COD has a different HUD for zombies than, say, the multiplayer or the campaign, and it helps with the style and theming. Black Ops 6 doesn't really have that, which is a little disappointing. Of course, this is possible to be changed, and even if it isn't, it's not a huge deal, just something I thought I'd point out. However, when we look at the general mechanics of the game, particularly from what was shown in the Liberty Falls gameplay, it very clearly looks like that for every improvement that this game makes over Cold War, there is another really shitty mechanic from Cold War that either goes completely unaddressed or it wasn't improved nearly as much as it should have been. First of all, loadouts are back, meaning you'll be able to spawn in with literally any gun you want with the exception of wonder weapons, which means that the in-game progression will be harmed much like in Cold War, as opposed to starting with a weak weapon and finding progressively better guns over the course of the game. Now, I know that someone in the comments is going to say, well, if you want that, then just choose a pistol as your starting weapon. The problem, however, is that picking a pistol doesn't actually fix the problem, and that's because of 2 other things that the loadout system necessitates, those being the weapon rarity system and the new point system, which also return in Black Ops 6. BO6. The weapon rarity system is just awful, but you need it in place when you can pick whatever weapon you want to start with. Otherwise, being able to choose your starting weapon would be even more broken. This comes at the cost of completely homogenizing the weapon pool so that very few weapons actually stand out in a negative or positive way. In older games, it mattered what weapon you had, but with weapon rarities, every gun will be roughly as effective as each other provided that they are in the same tier. But without any characteristics to differentiate them, it makes the weapon pool incredibly bland and not fun to use. This means that even if I choose a pistol as my starting weapon, it's not going to be that less effective than something like an assault rifle to any significant degree. At that point, there really is no reason to get wall weapons or hit the box. Just start with whatever weapon you want to use and upgrade the tier. I know this because I tried starting with a pistol and it didn't help. The other problem is the point system, which is copy-pasted from Cold War despite being worse than the original point system. Maximizing points used to be a skill, and mastery of it could let you open up some parts of the map and get certain upgrades several rounds sooner than you would normally otherwise. It also means that there is a reason to use some of the less effective weapons because they could get you a lot of points. In Black Ops 3, maybe you have access to the Haymaker on an early round, but then the box gives you something like a VMP. It's less effective at killing zombies, but there's a reason to take it since you can get more points. And there was some interesting decision making that's just completely gone with this new point system. This is why the meta in Cold War was the M16 and the 2 shotguns, since they were just that slightest bit more effective at killing zombies. This combination of factors really harms the in-game progression and decision making, and this really should have been addressed in BO6, but Treyarch just copy and pasted these systems from Cold War for some godforsaken reason. You know, you guys had 4 fucking years to work on this shit and you couldn't improve it? Like, what the fuck? Another issue I have is that the loot drops are back again. Now, when I first saw the Terminus gameplay, I was actually kind of optimistic since I only saw zombies dropping armor and salvage, which I was fine with. I still think salvage is kind of redundant since it's just a gratuitous alternate currency, but at the very least, there's only one type now, so I do like that. However, with the Liberty Falls gameplay, we saw a shit ton of equipment dropping on the ground like in Cold War, which I really don't get seeing as it was kinda broken in Cold War. Killing a horde of zombies would drop a shit ton of lethal equipment capable of one-shotting an entire horde on any round, and tactical equipment that in many cases would serve as a get-out-of-jail-free card. Seriously, when is the last time anybody watching this has actually crafted lethal or tactical equipment in Cold War? I cannot remember the last time for me, since I don't need to, since it drops so damn frequently. They could solve this in one of 2 ways. 1, they drastically tone down the rate at which zombies drop equipment, or 2, nerf the effectiveness of equipment and make it so that you can get more powerful equipment by upgrading it with salvage or doing a quest or something. To make matters worse, you can also spawn with a lethal and tactical equipment in your loadout. Why? Oh, and you also spawn with your field upgrade again. Did we seriously not learn any lessons since Black Ops 4 regarding spawning in too powerful? Like, I have no problem with being able to pick a field upgrade, but for fuck's sake, make it something you actually have to find and collect on the map. This is the real reason why I hated the Liberty Falls gameplay reveal. It's not so much because I think the map itself looks terrible, it's because the game looks too easy because of the mechanics. Some people have tried defending how easy the gameplay looks by saying that Liberty Falls is meant to be an easier, more casual-friendly map, and that Terminus will be a more hardcore map for those who want a challenge. Which, I don't necessarily disagree with having a concept like that. I mean, Black Ops 1 did the same thing with Kino and 5 respectively, with Kino being an easier map and 5 being a more hardcore map. But the thing is, a lot of what made Cold War easy, and what seems to be making Black Ops 6 easy, are the mechanics. And these same mechanics are going to be on Terminus, so I'm not too confident that it's going to be significantly more challenging. Which is disappointing, seeing as Treyarch marketed this game as having the hardest round 100 we've ever faced. Meanwhile, I saw people playing Liberty Falls that would literally take 6 hits back to back without Jug and would only deplete like half their health. And on top of that, we had Warzone streamers, not even zombie streamers, but Warzone streamers getting to round 50 on their first try without breaking a sweat. I mean, sure, some of it might be the map itself, but I guarantee most of this shit's because of the mechanics. Finally, we have an issue that may very well be a deal breaker for many people: forced online. Unlike every previous Zombies entry, you will not be able to play solo offline. Activision's justification for this is that they're forcing online texture streaming to keep the file size down, which I call bullshit on, because despite that, the game is still 300 fucking gigabytes. That is 5 times the file size of Elden Ring. If they wanted to reduce the file size, then there are plenty of other options they could have gone with instead. They could have a minimal install with a lower file size, which requires the online texture streaming, but also have the option to just install the assets locally to allow for offline play. Or just have some lower quality assets in the base install and allow people to enable texture streaming if they want higher quality assets. Or make the higher quality assets like a fucking optional free DLC pack like fucking Borderlands 2 did over a decade ago. Or Treyarch and Activision could simply learn some basic-ass file compression and we wouldn't be in this mess. Instead, they took the worst possible option. Because if your internet is having issues, or the server goes down, or there's a problem on Treyarch's end, the game is rendered literally unplayable. And that about sums up my thoughts on Black Ops 6 Zombies, so where do I stand on it? Personally, I have very mixed opinions on it, though I think I lean slightly more positive than negative. Despite all the things they didn't fix, there are some genuine improvements that I can spot over Cold War, and I'm also hopeful that the maps will be really fun and packed full of fun optional content. And if they are, then I'll probably love this game the same way I love BO4, even if the mechanics are kind of disappointing. As long as the maps are really good, I can sort of look past that. However, I highly doubt it's going to dethrone Black Ops 3 as my favorite. But with that, we have reached the end of the video, so if you enjoyed, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more, and tell me what you thought of the Black Ops 6 Zombies reveal. Are you excited? Are you disappointed? Are you a mix of both like me? Let me know in the comments. Anyways, that's it. Peace!